What's up guys, and welcome back to Tech Plant. Today's video is an update on the giant Pothos. Let's check it out. Alright, if you did not see the initial video about this giant Pothos node, I'm going to put a few clips in here just to catch up to speed. So originally, from a friend of mine in Florida, I was sent a huge Pothos node. This thing has been growing up a tree, and you can see there are some growths on there, so I tossed it in one of my propagation bins just to see what would happen. Lucky for me, like I said earlier, it already had some growth starting, so it did not take long to take off in the propagation bin. I know I have got some messages from some other people asking why theirs is taking longer, and that's probably because you didn't have growths already starting. I was pretty lucky with this cutting, so that's why it was pretty quick. Shortly after that, the first leaf popped out, and it was actually quite different from typical Pothos, very rubbery and thick, and it was just really cool to see. I did have two growths on there, as you could see, so I wanted to split it up, and my usual razor technique is not going to work on this massive node, so I used a Sawzall, and that took care of it pretty good. So then I potted them up, and that pretty much catches us up a little bit, but I think I ended the video with this footage right here, which shows a pretty amazing Pothos. It's rather big, almost like 4 or 5 times the size of regular leaves. So let's start at the newest footage, starting now. So that last video ended in about November, sometime mid-November, and here we are jumping ahead to a few days before March. And you can see quite a bit has actually changed. There are two really massive leaves compared to what we left off, and I thought those were big, but they got bigger. I would say at this point they're almost twice as big as the last 3 leaves. I mean, these things are massive. You can see the difference compared to my hand. It's really crazy. I know a few people in the comments thought that maybe it wouldn't continue to get bigger just because, you know, once you take it out of the tree, it's not quite the same. But I do have it on this custom made moss pole that I printed, so I think it's going to help simulate the tree. I thought it'd be a good idea to actually measure these leaves so we can track the progress and see the comparison a little more accurately and give you guys at home a little better idea of how big these leaves actually are. So I grabbed a yardstick. Measuring the longest part of the leaf, basically from the tip to the highest part of the heart arch or whatever you want to call, we're looking at about 11.5 inches, which is actually pretty incredible. Most of my Pothos are really only 3 inches, sometimes 4 on a good one, but this is exceeding that by a lot. Another really good thing to note is so far every single new leaf has exceeded the previous one, so that we haven't seen any sort of reversion yet. It's still getting bigger, so I'm really happy with that. This is staying pretty darn compact too. I've had it under lights this entire time, and interestingly enough, if you look at the very base, you can really see how all the roots are coming out at all different parts that it's coming in contact with the moss pole, and that's really giving it that simulation of being in a tree, which is why I think it's continuing to stay rather large and get larger. I've been really trying to stuff moss and everything I can to really interface it with the pole, that way it doesn't struggle to get roots into it at all. Alright, skipping ahead about 20 more days, I think we're at about mid-March, you can see there is some new growth coming out. Now, will it be bigger than the previous ones? We'll have to wait and see because it's not quite unfurled yet. I have noticed that these leaves take a long time to harden off actually, and I'm guessing that's just because they're so large, so it'll take some time before we can see if we've exceeded the previous leaf again. Like I said in the previous clips, I'm really trying to stuff that moss in between just to give it something moist to climb into and not have it touch that hard plastic, because I think anytime there's a hard plastic, it doesn't quite want to get to the actual moist stuff. So stuffing stuff in between really has been helping it out. Alright, we are skipping ahead another 10 days. This puts us towards the end of March, and you can see it is completely unfurled, yet it's still hardening off just a little bit, so it is huge. You can see right away that it really dwarfs the previous leaves. I'm surprised at actually how much bigger this one is, because it did seem to slow down with the previous two where they weren't like that much bigger, but this one really has jumped up quite a bit. I mean, this thing completely dwarfs my hand. It's not, I don't really have big hands or anything, but still, I mean, it's absolutely massive. We gotta measure this one just to see how much bigger it truly is. Using the yardstick to measure this one the same way we measured those previous leaves, it looks like we are exceeding 12 inches by about 1/4 inch, almost hitting that half mark, so I think we're almost an inch longer than previous. After measuring that other leaf, you can see that indeed, yep, they're about an inch apart in length, but I think the other one is quite a bit wider this time. And again, it's not completely hardened off, so it might grow out a little more. Now, as far as the width, which I can tell already is quite a bit bigger, we can measure that one, and it looks like it is about 7¼ a little more maybe, depending on how I hold the yardstick. And the previous one was about 6¼ a little more. So I think it's about 1 inch bigger as far as the width is concerned, which is pretty cool. I think we're getting to that point where this thing might start to fenestrate. I'm not sure about when that happens. Maybe they have to get much bigger, but either way, we are still seeing progress in the growth. So I'm super excited to see which leaf comes out next and if it's going to be another inch in both direction. I'm hoping this pole really helps out. I've filled it up more so it can root higher, and I'm really hoping this encourages more of that bigger growth. Here, just to pretty much end this video, this is what my normal green jade pothos looks like. It's just small. I mean, I have this stuff under grow lights too, but you can see the difference it really makes if you're not letting it grow upwards. If you let your pothos hang, you're really doing them a disservice as far as size. I mean, they still look good in a hanging pot, but when you get pothos growing up things, they really get big and they really can show off their like true like potential. But just looking at the two side by side is crazy. I really love this pothos plant, and it's easily becoming one of my favorites just because it keeps getting bigger, and it's really cool to see the journey that it's on. So I hope you guys enjoy these updates on this plant because it is really awesome. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed that update. I know I was surprised to see that each leaf continues to come out much larger than the last one, so that's a really good sign. I was a little nervous it would peter off towards the end and start to revert again, just because I can't simulate that like Florida tree lifestyle that it used to live in, but the moss pole seems to be giving it what it wants, and it seems to be getting bigger. I really hope we can get this thing to fenestrate. I think that would be like the awesomest achievement with this pothos plant, and it'd be just really cool to see that happen on a moss pole in my basement. I hope you guys are enjoying this giant pothos series as much as I am, and as always, may your plants grow strong and healthy. I'll see you next time.